There we go. An error occurred. Please try again later. That's fine. That is fine with me. All right, looks like we are live. Welcome everyone to the weekly WoW news. This week it is all about Rise of Azshara, and that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try to just kind of bang through all the news items, not spend too much time talking about any one thing, and anything that I feel like I really want to go in depth about, I'm going to try to break that out into a different, separate video so that I don't have hour-long news streams. So we're going to give that a shot. Before we get into talking about Rise of Azshara, there's a couple other WoW related things to talk about, and also some quick channel news. Tomorrow, Monday the 24th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to be here live streaming the Prot Paladin dungeon run stream. So I'm going to be doing nothing but running, tanking dungeons as a protection paladin. I think I said warrior because I've been playing Proud Warrior all day. Protection Paladin dungeon run stream is tomorrow, so that's going to be going on. And then Tuesday at the same time, 6:30 p.m. Central, I'm going to be on playing the new patch and live streaming and hoping that some of you can join me in game on stream, whatever that may be. So yeah, exciting stuff. Good streams there. Also, I'm in the process of figuring out what the next class is going to be that I create an in-depth guide for. And anyone who's supporting the channel on Patreon gets the opportunity to vote on that. Got a couple of votes already, but you can head over to patreon.com/Satsuko and get involved in that if you want. All right, that's enough channel shilling. Let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the news. So we've got a couple of days left before the patch comes out. Patch 8.2 Rise of Azshara is coming out on Tuesday the 25th. But before then, we have a couple of opportunities to get in some of this Burning Crusade time walking from this week. And that's really kind of the highlight, I think. If you want to get in any of this Burning Crusade time walking, you've got today and tomorrow to do that, and then we're going to be on to Rise of Azshara. Next up, there is a new WoW comic out about Mechagon. So if you're into the comics, if you're into the lore, be sure to check that out. You can find the link on Wowhead, or you can also check out the official post on World of Warcraft here. Mechagon. I haven't been keeping up with the comics, but Mechagon seems pretty interesting. Next, there's also a video. Patty Matson, who is the voice of Sylvanas, has decided to sing Lament of the Highborn and release it as a video for her birthday. Now, this is a song that is kind of a big part of the World of Warcraft lore. It's an Elven song, as noted by the Lament of the Highborn, and it's something that Sylvanas does sing at one point in the storyline here. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I like it for the lore significance and everything, but it's not really my style of song. But I know plenty of people will appreciate this and be very interested in it, so be sure to check that out as well. All right. Now, let's talk about Heart of Azeroth requirements for Azerite armor in Battle for Azeroth Season 3. So this is kind of letting you know what Azerite or Heart of Azeroth level you need to be at in order to unlock the different rings and traits that you have for your Azerite gear. Now, when you first start Rise of Azshara, you're going to do a quest. It's going to instantly boost you to level 35. So if you're way below 35 right now, I really wouldn't worry about trying to grind out Azerite. Just jump into the new patch, do the first couple of quests, and you're going to get boosted up to 35, and then you can start grinding out from there. But just to kind of take a look at this, item level 400 gear, this is going to be pretty easy to get when you first start out. You're going to be able to get benthic gear, which is, I believe, 385, and then you'll be able to increase the item level on that as well. So if you're not already wearing over level 400 item level Azerite gear, then You probably don't need to worry about this too much because by the time that you do get here, you're going to have gotten that level 35, plus whatever other sort of Azurite you've gotten from questing and trying to actually acquire item level 400. But if you're at 400 or higher, chances are your Heart of Azeroth is probably high enough for all this stuff too. But basically, if you look here, you can see that for the helmet, to unlock the spec ring for any of these, actually, you only need to be at Heart of Azeroth level 15. Primary, you need to be in the low 30s, and your roll is the first time where you might hit a level that you need to get above that initial 35 that you're going to have. But if we look at just the item level 400, so to get the third ring in, you're going to need to get 34 for your Heart of Azeroth level, and then 38 for the defensive, and 42 for the empowerment. Now, basically, what has happened is the level requirement has stayed the same for all of the different rings until you get to the item level upgrade. So if you look at this, even if we're talking about the level 445 helmet, shoulders, or chest, the furthest ring in before you get to the actual item level upgrade, 41, 43, 42. So not drastically higher than it has been. But if you look at the empowerment level, 42, 46, 58, 63, we've got a 65 on the shoulders, a 64 on the chest. So essentially, you should be able to very quickly unlock all of the rings for your Azurite armor that have traits on them. The one thing you might be stuck grinding Azurite for is for the item level increase in the center of your piece of gear. So I wouldn't worry, like I said, too much about grinding out the Azurite at this point, because if you're below 35, you're going to get a boost to 35 at the start of the patch. And if you're above 35, then you're pretty much in good shape for all of these here to be able to unlock all the traits already. So no real reason to grind Azurite at this point unless you are like a super hardcore, world first or top tier raider, and you're going to want to be pushing for, like 63, 65 on your Heart of Azeroth to unlock these item level increases for some really top tier raiding. Next up, as I've already said, Rise of Azshara releases on June 25th, and we're going to take a look at some of this. So we have the actual patch notes from Rise of Azshara are here. So we got New Zone, we have Nazjatar, we have Benthic Gear, which we talked about last week, Prismatic Mana Pearls. So defeating powerful enemies, completing quests, and plundering the treasures of Azshara's minions may yield Prismatic Mana Pearls, concentrations of magical energy highly prized by Nazjatar's denizens. You can spend this new currency on many different items within Nazjatar, including Benthic tokens and upgrades for Benthic gear, pets, and a mount. So there's a bunch of ways that you can earn these. This is the new currency that we're going to be using for Rise of Azshara. Most of the time when they release a new zone, they have a new currency to go along with it, and that's what the Manas of Pearls are. For Mechagon, we've got Mechagon Island coming out. We have our Junkyard Tinkering, which is going to allow us to craft equipment, mounts, toys, and consumables in exchange for spare parts and energy cells. So those are the currencies for Mechagon. We have the pocket-size computation device. That is the trinket with the punch cards that we talked about last week. New raid, Azshara's Eternal Palace is going to be coming out. So Eternal Palace normal and heroic difficulties will open on July 9th, 2 weeks after Rise of Azshara goes live on June 25th. Raid Finder Wing 1 and Mythic will open the following week on July 16th. We have the new dungeon, Operation Mechagon, which is a mega dungeon. So this is going to be an 8-boss dungeon. It's mythic only, and it's going to be open to players after they complete new faction-based quests for the Rustbolt Resistance, which is the reputation faction on Mechagon. There's going to be great rewards, but there might be some surprising properties to this gnome-crafted loot. This is going to open at the start of Season 3 on July 9th after accepting the quest Operation Mechagon, the Mechariginator. So you're going to have 2 weeks to basically get to the point where you are able to do Operation Mechagon, so you should be okay unless you've just been hardcore grinding out Nazjatar at that point, but keep in mind that Operation Mechagon is going to require you to do some faction-based quests on Mechagon. We got updates to the Heart of Azeroth system, so we have the essences. I'm going to be making a video on these within the next couple of weeks. I kind of want to get my hands on them and try them out. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get my hands on all of them, as you'll see here, but I want to kind of test them out before I, say too much about them. So the way essences are going to work is you're going to have a menu on your Heart of Azeroth, and you're going to open that up, and you're going to have a slot for a major power, and then you're going to have 2 slots for minor powers. Now, my understanding of this is that you're going to be able to get the major power slot right away, and it's going to take you a little while to get the first minor spot, and that the last minor slot that is available is going to take forever. And essentially what Blizzard has done is made it so that you're just not going to be able to get that last slot until they decide that it's okay for you to do so. And the way that they're doing it is just by making it really, really difficult to get the appropriate Azerite Heart of Azeroth level to be able to unlock that slot. So anyway, when you first start off, you're going to be able to get that major slot first. And what that does is you can take an essence and you can slot it into that, and you will gain the major power of the essence and the minor power. Each of these essences has a major power, which is essentially an activated ability you're going to be able to add to your bar. Then they have a minor power, which is like a passive effect. So if the essence is in that major slot, you get the benefit of both. If it's in the minor slot, you get just the minor effect. So this is essentially trying to change up the way that the game is being played and move some of the special, unique abilities that you can have access to off of the Azerite gear and onto the Heart of Azeroth itself. I have a lot of thoughts about this, so I'm not going to get into them here. Like I said, I'm going to do a video about that a little bit later on, but just know that those are coming. Also, you're going to have to complete a new quest line to unlock the Heart Forge before infusing essences into the Heart of Azeroth. This unlocks the major slot and will reward you with your first essence. So you are going to get the Heart Forge and get an essence right away. Then you'll have to go out and unlock more essences as you want them. And you're going to have to do that by doing a wide variety of content depending on the essence that you want. If you're a PvE player, you may have to go in PvP to get the specific essence that you want, depending on what it is. And that's a whole can of worms that we're not going to get into here. We also have mount equipment coming. I believe there are 3 pieces of mount equipment coming, and the way these work are there's going to be a slot on your mount journal, and you can put one of these pieces of mount equipment in there. It is a consumable item, so once you use it, it's gone, and if you replace it, you're going to have to get another one if you ever want to go back to using that ability. But you put this piece of equipment in the slot, and then all of your mounts, with the exception of some that have special abilities, are going to have the ability of the piece of equipment. And I believe there is, here we go, more speed, daze prevention, a parachute, or water walking with mount equipment. So if you take the water walking piece of equipment and you put it into that slot on your mount journal, then all of your mounts, with the exception of those special ones, are going to be able to walk on water. So this is really cool. This is going to let you to have a water walking mount without having to go get a water strider. The daze prevention I know is going to be really nice if you're not playing a tank spec. More speed is always good. And I think everyone's laughing at the parachute, but I think until I unlock flying, the parachute is probably like my go-to piece of equipment here because I like being able to just jump off the top of a mountain. I guess it depends on how much elevation is involved in Nazjatar and Mechagon. I'm not sure, but I know that in a lot of the BFA zones right now, sometimes the easiest way to get from point A to point B is just to jump off a cliff and head down that direction, which I do all the time on my Demon Hunter. So I think being able to do something like that on a mount as well, it essentially gives your mount slow fall, would be pretty handy for getting around. Definitely depends on the class that you're playing, because some classes can just jump off a cliff and they have a way to not take any damage anyway, but I don't know. For me, that's looking pretty appealing. I'm kind of wondering how much water walking we're going to need in Nazjatar and Mechagon. It kind of makes sense now on the islands, and maybe Nazjatar will have a lot of watery spots, but not sure. Daze prevention is always great, but I play tank spec, so I'm not worried about that. And more speed is always good as well. So for me, it's kind of a toss up, I think. More speed or parachute, depending. So, mount equipment, that's coming. We've got new quests. We're going to have a big quest line for the Heart of Azeroth. We're going to have a quest line for the War campaign involving spoilers, which I'll skip here. We're also going to have the new heritage armor for gnomes and Tauren. So if you have one of your characters is this race and they're exalted with that particular faction, they get to go on the quest and unlock their heritage armor. We have a new epic battleground in Ashran. We also have a new war mode event, the Battle for Nazjatar. So this is kind of like a open world event where if you are in war mode in Nazjatar, then you're going to have the opportunity to essentially capture objective points, and then you're going to score victory points by doing that. And then the first faction to do so is going to be rewarded with the Nazjatar Battle Commendations. That can be spent on cosmetic rewards, including unique banners and the Ink Scale Deep Seeker Seahorse mount. Got new island expeditions. We have Crestfall and Snow Blossom Village. These are both pretty interesting, I think. Nice kind of throwback with Snow Blossom Village to Mist of Pandaria. We've got new missions and mechanics, so the mission table is getting an update. I don't really care. You can now enlist boat captains. Woo! All right. Flying is coming in Kul Tiras and Zandalar, so we've talked about that. I've been working on my Pathfinder Part 1 the past few days. I've just got some factions that I have to get up to Revered, and I'm good to go on that. This is going to be probably the first Pathfinder achievement I will ever unlock. I still don't have the one for Warlords of Draenor or Legion. So I was like, if I'm going to make videos on YouTube, I better get Pathfinder and not look like a scrub. I just hate rep grinds. So we got new mounts, new pet battles, including the new pet battle dungeon, Stratholme. We've got updates to transmogrification, so you can hide all armor slots except for legs. That's pretty sweet. I also just like this because I like to start with a blank slate and just kind of hide everything and then build the pieces together as I do that. And it's been really frustrating where there are certain pieces that you can't hide. And then so you're trying to build this cool transmog, but you just have these random like bright red wrist pieces that, don't go away. So this is going to be pretty cool. Several items are now eligible for transmog, including Cookie's Tenderizer, Dire Brew Shanker, and Nat's Hat. So we're getting some new stuff added to the Transmog library. We got an update to Brewfest, which is interesting here. We talked about this last week with the Volpera being added or having a Brewfest icon added. We don't know why yet. And then we have our class updates. We're not going to go through these in this video, but you can definitely check them out. I'm going to be checking them out and talking about them as they happen to come up. Dungeons and raids. We've got Mythic Keystone dungeon updates, Hellfire Citadel, Island Expedition, items and rewards. So all kinds of adjustments and perks here. We've got our mention here for the XP off nerf that's coming along. So players that manually group with a player that has turned off experience gains will now receive 95% less experience. So power loving people on a twink is no longer a viable option. PvP, professions, we have a lot new. There's like a new profession ingredient for every single profession, as well as new zone specific items that you have to get in order to craft the new recipes as well. Quest and World Quest, some user interface stuff. Just kind of goes on and on, bug fixes, and yep, I think we're pretty much good there. So, all that said, let's go ahead and jump into our Previews for Nazjatar. So this has pictures. This is what I'm excited about. We get pictures here. So we have the map of Nazjatar. So it's pretty cool. I mean, looking at this, maybe you probably need probably want some water walking down here, maybe a little bit up here. I don't know. It doesn't look too bad. I'm interested. This looks like this is the coral forest. What were the other zones? I'm pretty sure they're gonna tell us. All right, so we have our new friends. These are going to be the new factions that we have access to. We've got our benthic gear, our PvE events. So this is something a little bit new. Summons from the depths. Queen Azshara will periodically rally her Naga forces to summon forth a powerful creature from the depths for a zone-wide event. There are 2 phases. First, you clear out some of the elite Naga forces within a limited amount of time, and the second, you have to defeat the monstrosity that was called up. Then you have the elite commanders. Time to time, you'll be called upon to face 5 of Azshara's elite commanders, who will appear in various locations throughout Nazjatar. This is available only when war mode is off, so that's interesting. Defeating any of these 5 formidable foes will provide you with prismatic mana pearls. The more you take down, the more you will have to spend at your favorite vendor. There's a PvP event, Battle for Nazjatar, that we already talked about. We've got new world bosses. We have Olmath the Soulbinder, who seeks to enthrall the restless spirits of Nazjatar, and Wekemara, summoned from the depths of an ancient Naga ritual. Wekemara arises once more to wreak havoc upon the surface. And then we have the new raid. So, yeah. Cool. Nazjatar. More exciting to me, though, is Mechagon, which is weird because I'm not like gnomes. I don't really like gnomes, and I'm not really into steampunk stuff. But yeah, here's Mechagon. Looks like no water walking is necessary in Mechagon. So if this is where you decide to spend the majority of your time, I would recommend getting some other piece of mount equipment here. So Rust Bolt, I believe, is where you start out. That's where I think I started out, was Rust Bolt. I did try a little bit of Mechagon on the PTR. So we're going to be joining the Rust Bolt Resistance. That's the faction on Mechagon. We have our Junkyard Tinkering, this big guy here. Pascal King, I guess. Can craft items. You're going to find blueprints, and those are going to start to unlock the different things that you can craft at Pascal. You're going to get the Mechano-Cat laser pointer at some point, which is going to tie into the cat mount that you can then get the paint jobs for and change the color of. You're going to have construction projects. So these are things that are placed around Mechagon, and essentially everybody can kind of contribute to them, and when you are able to build them, they give you an edge over enemies and stuff like that. So wide variety of bonuses, including experimental equipment, weapons, and equipment to wield while on the island, flame turrets that help clear an area of foes, a drill rig that can uncover a cave full of treasures, and more. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you're going to be able to do with these construction projects. I think they pretty much just work like the war table for Warfronts, or like the buildings and stuff in Warfronts. Got your pocket-sized computation device trinket, new dungeon, Operation Mechagon. I'm going to be excited to dig into that. So yeah. And then the last thing to talk about for Rise of Azshara is the content unlocks and how soon you're going to be able to access the different pieces of content. Not based on Blizzard's time gating, but just kind of based on actual real playtime. So your Nazjatar reputations are going to be unlocked pretty early, right after you complete your introductory kind of quests. Your Heart of Azeroth Essence system is going to be unlocked soon after that, where you are going to do a quest that unlocks your forge and gets you the Crucible of Flame essence as well. We'll take a look at this real quick. So the Crucible of Flame. Infuse your Heart of Azeroth with the Crucible Flame. All right. We'll talk about that in the Essences video. This is one of the Essences, though, that you're going to get at rank 1 and be able to plug into your Heart of Azeroth right away. Benthic gear, that's going to be coming quickly after you create or complete this quest here. And from what I understand, the Benthic gear is really, really easy to get. I think it's like 5 mana pearls per token. And you can also get tokens for Benthic armor from doing world quests around the zone as well. So you can specifically target those quests and go get pieces of gear, turn those in, and you get 385. As far as I know, Benthic gear is like all your armor slots except for trinkets, rings, and weapons. So everything else you can get a piece of Benthic gear for. This is going to get you up to item level 385 pretty quickly. And on the Mechagon side of things, that's where you can get your trinkets, rings, and your weapons. So you do kind of have to float back and forth in order to be able to get, the whole ensemble. Nazjatar World Quest. Let's see. Several quests after unlocking the Benthic Gear upgrade NPC. Then you're going to unlock Nazjatar World Quest. So you're not going to have access to these right away. You're going to have to do a few quests to get to them. Kind of like what we had to do on Argus, where you had to go through quest and unlock the world quest. But for that particular chunk of content, you had to do that for each of the different subzones within Argus. So I wonder if that's going to be the same here, or if you just get all the Nazjatar world quest at once. Mechagon, completion of the next quest in the series unlocks a quest chain for Mechagon content. You can visit the zone without completing the chain. Most of the content will be missing, so make sure that you complete the quest A Worthy Ally or Becoming a Friend. So definitely look into those and make sure you're caught up. The War Campaign, after you complete A Brief Respite or down into Nazjatar, you're going to get into the 8.2 step of the War Campaign. And it looks like you have to level up a bodyguard to rank 3 before you can really get into that. So I know you can choose which bodyguard you want on like a daily basis, or maybe you can swap them out, but it looks like you're going to want to focus on a particular bodyguard if you're wanting to get through the war campaign content so that you can get them up to rank 3 as fast as possible. Completing the 8.2 step of the War Campaign, Stay of Execution, is one component needed to unlock the quest lines for Gnome and Tauren Heritage Armor. So it looks like you're going to have to level up a bodyguard to rank 3, get through the War Campaign, and be exalted with either Gnome or Tauren appropriate rep factions before you can unlock the heritage armor. That's a lot of stuff kind of gated behind for this to be gated behind. I don't know, that seems dumb. Let's see. There are also a bunch of other things that we can look at and unlock here as well. But I think we've talked enough about Rise of Azshara. It's all coming out Tuesday. Hopefully this was enough to give you a few tips. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this video here, Developer Insights. So there was a Developer Insights video that came out with Ian Hazzikostas talking about World of Warcraft. And basically, we're going to skip this. This is the thing that we're going to talk about briefly. I'm going to try to make a longer video about this later so this news video doesn't take forever. One thing that he said was PvE gear in PvP and vice versa. He said that he thinks it's a good thing if a PvE player has to go into PvP to unlock one of their best items and vice versa. That's the gist of what he said, and I don't agree. I think most people don't agree. I don't think that if you love to play PvP, you should be forced to go do mythic dungeons to get the best piece of equipment for you. And I don't think if you do PvE raiding, you should be forced to go into PvP battlegrounds to get the best piece of gear for your character. WoW is not that intertwined of a game, and the direction that they've taken it over the years has made it very, very easy to just do a particular type of content that you want to do and not be penalized for that. And I think that at this point, trying to do something weird like this, either you need to bring the game together more for this to make sense, because right now it is just really segmented, like PvE players, PvP players. And then even within those big groups, you have even smaller subsets of players, like people that just raid, or people that just do myth and dungeons, or people that just do world quests and pet battles or whatever. And then you've got people that do arena, and people who do rated battlegrounds. So I think this is stupid. That's really kind of my summary of it. Essence catch up. So one thing that they said is that Blizzard may add more essences in the future, but the current essences that are going to be added in 8.2 are not going to be made obsolete this expansion. So chances are next expansion, all this stuff is going away and it's going to be replaced with something new. But until the next expansion, you can rely on the fact that your essences are not going to be replaced in 8.3. There may be new ones, but they're not going to be like power scaled up so that it doesn't make sense not to use any of those other ones from 8.2. So that is pretty nice. Also, they did mention that there's not going to be a catch up system for essences, so you won't be able to acquire them a heck of a lot faster in 8.3 than you can in 8.2. So basically, what they're trying to say is get out there, get your essences. They're going to last till the end of the expansion, and it's not going to get any easier for you to acquire them in the future. All right, so not going to go too in depth with this, but Ian did mention stuff about class design and pruning, and basically where he feels like Blizzard has gone too far with the pruning in World of Warcraft, and that they have focused on button count as a measure of complexity, and that led them to pull back farther than they should have. Now, this is something that I definitely agree with. I feel like more buttons are better, especially if there's an optional way for you to have less buttons. I like the fact that you can go into the talent tree and choose like a passive build that doesn't add a lot to what you're doing, or you can choose to add a bunch of buttons. But even if you add a bunch of buttons, it just doesn't feel great in Battle for Azeroth, because I think they've pruned things too much, and they've also homogenized the classes and what they're capable of to the point where everything kind of feels the same. Everything has like a 4-button DPS rotation, and that gets you through like 90% of the content in the game, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for diversity and choice. They did say that. They did say that they think that they've pruned too more. They also said that they think that they've probably bolstered spec identity at the expense of class identity. Now, this was something that for me kind of like set off an alarm bell in my head, because I wanted to know, what do they mean by this? So I want the classes to feel diverse from each other, but if the specializations end up all feeling the same, then those kind of become pointless. So when they said they bolstered spec identity at the expense of class identity, I was like, wait, hold on, pump the brakes. But what they went on to say is that ideally, specialization should be just that, picking a facet of the class that excites you the most and doubling down on that. For some classes right now, some specs are almost like an entirely different class with entirely different abilities and a little bit of overlap. That's something they'd also like to pull back from. They want to go back to class identity as a foundation, potentially through taking some abilities that are now spec specific and spreading them back out, even if they're off role. There's value in hybridity. Now, this is something that I definitely agree with, depending on what they do with it. So I think it is really valuable to have skills and abilities from a specialization built into the core of the class, so that you're able to kind of adapt to situations as they occur. This is my favorite thing about playing a druid in Classic and Burning Crusade, and with other classes as well. But I always remember druid and warriors with stance dancing a little bit. But if I was playing a druid and I was spec'd to be balanced or I was spec'd to be a healer or whatever, I still had this chunk of abilities in my core kit that would allow me to switch gears and be the tank if we needed it. So let's say we're running a dungeon, Zul'Farrak or something. We ran a lot of that back in the day. And there were times when, for whatever reason, the tank would die. We would pull too much stuff or whatever, and the tank would die. I would switch over to bear form as a druid, and I'd have some of those bear tanking abilities, and I could tank. I wasn't the best tank because I wasn't spec'd for tanking. I wasn't spec'd for Feral with the Guardian appropriate talents at the time, but it still allowed me to kind of switch gears, adapt to the situation, and go, hey, you know what? As a druid, this is something I could do. Whereas I feel like now, really, to get that same kind of effect, you have to be, guardian or feral. Like, sure, you can go into bear form, but like you're not really doing anything. You're not holding threat. Might be a bad example because bear form just passively gives you so many stats that it's like, imagine if you're a fury warrior and you just decide, oh, tank's dead, I'm gonna tank. You would probably get crushed. You don't have a lot of the tools and abilities. You'd have to be really, really, really good at your specialization or really, really, really over geared for the content that you're doing in order to make that viable. So I think that spreading some of those abilities back out to form the core of a class so that you do have that hybrid ability, but also when you choose a specialization, you should be doubling down on whatever element of that class makes you feel cool and or is the type of gameplay that you like or whatever. And I think that if that portion is also sacrificed, then they're going to go the other way where picking a specialization doesn't really feel all that meaningful or all that unique. I don't think any of this stuff is going to be implemented during Battle for Azeroth. I think this is all going to be stuff that comes with the next expansion, but it's good to hear them say this. But they've also said a lot of stuff like this in the past that gets you excited about, oh, well, maybe they're going to do A, and then they do C or D or E or F with a twist that people don't like. So I don't know. We'll wait and see what they say if they announce the expansion at BlizzCon. Maybe they'll have some thoughts and ideas. I don't know. Either way, I think that the biggest problem for me in Battle for Azeroth has been a lack of really interesting content and a lack of iteration, experimentation, and innovation in this expansion compared to the last one. But aside from those two things, like, my number one problem in Battle for Azeroth is that classes just don't feel as fun as they have in the past. And it's like Blizzard took steps backwards, where after Legion, I was hoping they would take another step forward, because in Legion, classes were fairly fun. And I was really excited to see, like, oh, what's the next level? They're getting it right. And they just went like 3 steps backwards. So hearing them talk about just classes in general in any circumstance and admitting that they've made some mistakes is good news for me. So we will see what happens. I mean, I think the earliest we're going to hear anything is November, but that is exciting news. For now, we're stuck with the classes that we have the way that they are. But at least we have 8.2 coming on Tuesday, giving us a whole bunch of content to look forward to and all sorts of collectibles and stuff, if that's what you're into. There's a ton of that coming in 8.2. I'm excited to play on Tuesday. Don't forget, I'll be live streaming here 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm also live streaming tomorrow, Monday, the 24th at 6:30 p.m. So back-to-back streams, actually 3 streams in a row if you count this one. Really, really exciting. So based on how Tuesday goes, I'll see what the content of the next streams are going to be, whether it's going to be Nazjatar or Mechagon or what. But if you're on and you're on the US servers, feel free to hit me up tomorrow night. And if not, check out the streams, jump in, chat, let's hang out, have a good time. Last thing I want to say here is that if class playstyle, if gameplay is one of the reasons that you stop playing Battle for Azeroth, I don't think this patch is going to fix that. So get excited and come check out the new content if you want. But, if that's been the core issue for you, this isn't going to fix it. We've got more content. We've got new content. We've got a couple new buttons to push with the Azerite essences. We've got some more interesting gear, but all that kind of stuff is secondary, I think, to the gameplay loop, to that feedback of pushing buttons and doing things. So if you were unsatisfied with that in Battle for Azeroth and you don't have another strong reason to play, come check out the patch, but don't get your expectations too high. All right, everyone. I appreciate you tuning into the stream. Or if you're watching this later on YouTube, appreciate you doing that as well. Encourage you to do all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell. That's something I never say, but hit the bell for the notifications. I hope you're having fun in whatever it is that you're doing. And as always, I'll see you on the next video.